Hail, traveler. My name is Kendrick or Kendo, whichever you prefer, and this is Scouting Party, the series brought to you by Kobold Press, where I interview our fantastic designers so that you can know everything you need to know about our latest Kickstarters. And it shouldn't surprise you to know that once again we are talking about the Northlands Worldbook and Northlands SAGAS, coming out for Tales of the Valiant and D&D 2024. And I am happy to report that as of this recording, the Northlands Kickstarter is sitting at over $183,000, which is frankly fantastic, and thanks to so many of you. So if you have already backed the Northlands Kickstarter, from me and everyone at Kobold Press, thank you so much. And if you haven't already backed the Kickstarter, hopefully this video will give you the reason to do so. Last week we dove headfirst into the setting of the Northlands, learning about its people, its history, its culture, from the dangerous waters of the Selkie Isles to the land of the giants, Jotunheim. These realms offer plenty of opportunity for epic adventures that will be told by Skalds for decades to come. But before we can go on those adventures, we've got to know what character options are available to us so that we can build the Viking we were always meant to be. I had the pleasure of talking with lead designer Brian Susskind and designers Nick Height, Andy Collins, and Mike Wellham to talk about these various character options, from your species to your subclasses to your backgrounds, and even character threads are making a resurgence. So without further ado, let's debrief. We're all excited. We're all excited about the Northlands. We want to be there. We want to be in the snow, carrying our axes, trudging off to the next raid. But before we can get there, we've got to make our characters. We've got to use the new Northlands options to make our awesome Viking adventurers.
That's true.
Let's start with the species.
Well, we're going to have some familiar ones like you might expect. Bearfolk going to be in there. We have Beastkin from Tales of the Valiant. Because we're doing this for D&D 2024, because we got the opportunity to put it on D&D Beyond, this is the first time we're seeing Beastkin in a 2024 setting. So Trollkin, obviously, you gotta have your Trollkin in there. And Ravenfolk. Those are sort of our familiar friends. Then we have some new ones. We got Giantkin.
So I was asked to work primarily on Giantkin. The Northlands obviously had this really strong Norse inspiration, and a lot of the Norse mythology has your fire and your frost giants, right? And then since we're doing a 5th edition D&D book, we also brought in a ton, basically all, I believe, of the classic D&D giants. Mm-hmm. So the Giantkin are all, they're not half giants. They're like, 1/4, 1/8 giant. They're descended from giants, like somewhere back in their family tree, kind of like a tiefling sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so we've got a subcategory of Giantkin for each of the standard giant types: frost giant, storm giant, cloud giant, all the way down to stone and hill giants. It was actually fairly interesting to do because it was almost like doing one race with a whole bunch of little broken up individual bits. So they all share this rock catching rule that I adapted from the traditional stone giant. They catch boulders and they'll throw it back at you.
Yeah.
So all of the Giantkin have that, and then each of the subspecies has something that's a little more specific to their flair. Like the cloud giants, I think, to levitate or fly. Fire giants have, like, if you cut them, they bleed, like flaming blood, stuff like that. Obviously, I wanted to get a bunch of cool character options in place, but also because the Giantkin are such a critical part of the Northlands mythology, they're in, not only are they the real giants, the full giants are antagonists and sometimes protagonists. They're all over the place in their own settlements and the outskirts of the human settlements. So having rules for the Giantkin for players was great, but also there are going to be a lot of Giantkin NPCs throughout the adventures as well.
I love that. And especially it kind of feels a little bit similar to the way that Dragonborn are developed in the way that's you have all of these subcategories based on whatever your lineage is. And that is I think that's a really sick way to do Giantkin that I don't think I've seen before, because usually you just get Goliaths, right, where they're they're big. And that's
Obviously,
really
I
it.
took a lot of inspiration from the Goliath race because we wanted to not go too far off of what had already been established in the D&D 2024 rules in terms of like style and power level and things. So there's a lot shared between them and Goliaths, but I wanted to make sure that they also had a lot of their own flavor, and I don't think there's that much in the way of overlap.
Yeah, I mean, they feel very specific like that. Like these feel like they are tied to all of these elemental giants that are such a big deal for the world.
But then we also have Werekin. These are your descendants of the lycanthropes. You know, a lot of them in Vargreich, they can't assume full animal form, but they get a kind of a halfway form, a hybrid form. The best analog is probably the old shifters from Eberron.
Yeah, that's kind of.
But we tried to make these shifters very distinct. They don't have to just be wolves. They can be, you know, bear folk shifters. They could, you know, bearkin. They, you know, can have this variety. And then, of course, there's my favorite, Ratatasks. As we know, you know, because I'm not allowed to do mimics anymore, I gravitated toward Ratatasks, and I had to fight for this. We are having our first tiny-sized PC race, and for GMs who don't want it, it's an option. There's rules to have it if you want to do it, and I set it up so that you can, you know, here's how you do it. But it's like, they're squirrels. They're small. I mean, they're this big. You know, they're not, you know.
Oh, that's
squirrel.
So good.
It's
so good. I love that so much. And like, and these options are also coming in the ToV version of the book as well. So Tales of the Valiant people will also have their own Ratatosk. They'll have their own, the Werekin is so cool.
Most Ratatasks are small. Like the ones we've had in our previous material are small size. But then there is a branch that are tiny. And for me, I would play the tiny ones because it's just hysterical. So, and then we have a couple of lineage variants. You know, we have the Alfar, they're elves who didn't retreat with the rest, and they went into hiding up in the north. And you know, they end up sort of like nomadic ice folk, very touchy about, you know, tradition. And then, you know, we have some sea elves. They're in the depths of the Neater Strait. And then there's a kind of a ring crafting dwarven lineage.
Ooh, what makes them different?
Most dwarves are crafters, but these are very focused on crafting items. You know, they are meticulous artisans. And, you know, rune crafting and, you know, shaping. Big followers of Volund, the smith god of the north.
What is the subclass that you worked on?
I did two. The first is the Path of the Titan Barbarian, which is all about just like not descended from, but draws power from the giants. So it shoehorns in very similar to the Giantkin themselves. He's all about getting big. I think as soon as you take the path, you can grow from whatever your current size is to large. And then I want to say it's at like level 14. It goes from large to huge and with accompanying bonuses, right? And I wanted to really capture this feeling of like playing a giant, like a real giant, because players often don't get, especially in more recent editions, like 5th Ed can be a little stingy with size changes. Yeah. Like there's the enlarge spell and it's like, cool, you go up one size category. And I wanted to make sure that we had something in place where it wouldn't overlap mechanically too hard with the Giantkin, because often if you want to double down on like one thing, you'll end up overlapping a lot of your abilities. You're like, oh, I've got powerful build and I'm also large. Like, cool, I get my carrying capacity is treated as though I am large, but also I'm large. So stacking the same sort of thing can feel kind of weak. And I made sure to go out of my way and ensure that the mechanical benefits of the Path of the Giant Barbarian do not overlap with the Giantkin's mechanical benefits. But also I wanted to make a space where like you could play like a gnome or something who's like, he's this little dude. And he's always been like, I want to be the big guy. And I'm going to, one day when I'm big and strong, I'm going to step on all of you little guys. And so the gnome barbarian with Path of the Titan, at level 3, he goes from small to large. And at level 14, he goes from small to like huge. Yeah. And so all of the abilities there don't care what your base size is. They only care what you get up to. And then all of the abilities are about like just smashing, like trampling over things that are like too little for you to care about. Or the classic like a treant or something grabs a tree trunk and just like smacks some guy and he goes flying across the screen like the Hulk or something, right? So that's the primary mechanical motivation, was that trample move. And then I I want to say I put it on every attack or like once an encounter, something like that. You can hit a guy and just like send him flying. And I think it really captures the physicality. Yeah, that just big stompy feel, right?
Yeah, the power, the weight behind it.
Exactly.
And like, if you're playing that kind of barbarian, that's what you want to be doing, right?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, and I love how it really plays into that fantasy, the fiction that people are looking for with that kind of thing. And I agree. That is an aspect of the fantasy that I don't think I've ever had the chance to explore as a player, right? I've never been able to be the huge person on a battlefield causing like destruction and havoc then that my enemies then have to work around, right?
It really kind of changes the paradigm between the player and the monster. Usually it's the monsters are these huge things. In this instance, the player gets to like be like your King Kong versus Godzilla, right? They get a big wrestling match kind of thing.
Yeah, which like in the Northlands is going to be huge. It's going to be such a big deal.
Yeah, there's going to be giants and dragons and garbage like that all over the place. So like if you're not the big guy, then you're the little guy.
Exactly. And now you get to be the big guy.
Right.
What is the Oath of Valhalla for a paladin? My fear is that it's going to be a terrifying monster who just wants to fight and go to Valhalla, which honestly, fair.
I went with a slightly different direction. I more of the protector of the honored dead.
Ooh, okay.
Yes. And also with a little bit of kind of a thunder element to it. The paladin's goal is to, make sure that the people who have died in battle honorably remain protected, aren't going to get raised by necromancers. He does inspire courage in battle, of course, because they're at the forefront of battle, of course. And finally, along with the lines of protecting the honorable dead, they will mete out justice to those who make a mockery of the dead. So if there's an opposing, undead or necromancer, that Oath of Valhalla Paladin is going to go right after that guy.
That's really cool. I think that's a flavor of paladin I don't think I've seen a lot of, because I guess I tend to view that like kind of anti-undead usually within the realm of clerics, right? Because they get like turn undead and stuff like that. So was that the reason why you wanted to kind of lean in this direction for the Oath of Valhalla?
It was, yeah. So it gives another option. So you got a more of a martial character who can take care of your undead types.
Yeah. I kind of love how that ties into some of the conversation I was having with Bashir about like the Vatir and things of that nature, where it feels it feels like there's some crossover in like the roles in which the Vader like take in the world, and then also this paladin whose whole deal is about like caring for and respecting the dead and making sure that it's not desecrated or comes back in ways that are wrong.
An Oath of Valhalla Paladin will get really angry if anybody starts, tinkering with raising dead, or not raising dead, but animating dead.
Yeah.
I think you have to have a good conversation with a cleric who's like, hey, we got our companion, and he's been that person's been really good for our side, so I want to resurrect him. You okay with that?
Be like, what do you mean by bringing them back?
Yeah.
Furrow's brow.
Might be a case where the paladin goes, no, that person died honorably in battle. They're not coming back.
Let them rest. Oh,
Yes.
That's another that's another interesting twist on that, right? Of like, hey, don't bring this person back. They're in Valhalla. They're in the good place. Like,
yes.
I know we want them here, but they're doing their deal. That's fascinating.
In Norse history, there's this tradition of flighting, which is like an old, Scandinavian, rap battle sort of thing. It shows up in one of Snorri's Eddas. Loki shows up and goes to a party, and everybody's like, "You're not invited." He's like, "Oh, but Odin swore to me that I could show up," and he just shows up, comes in, leverages this ancient vow that Odin swore to him and just starts insulting everybody. He tells all of the male gods that they are cowards. He tells all of the female gods that they're sexually promiscuous, and basically just needles at everybody under this like aegis of like, oh, I'm a guest, nobody can bother me, until Thor shows up and is like, hey, you knock it off or I'm gonna beat you in the face. And that's like the one thing that can finally get Thor, or it can get Loki to shut his trap. And so since Loki was fairly significant in the adventure path, I really wanted to tie back into that and have somebody who could be like following in his footsteps in that regard. And it also gives us a little bit more of like the manipulation angle that bards are often fairly known for, but maybe don't get as much play on. So in this instance, instead of, hey, let's all go out and beat the giant monsters, it's the guy who might stand next to the town guard and like needle at the local noble's son until he like throws a punch and gets himself in trouble, or he's like standing at the king's table and like very subtly like poking fun at the other people at the table to like start a war or get like opposing guys to decide that they won't help each other in this like kind of parley or some kind of situation like that. So I really wanted this social manipulation angle, less from the typical seduction and diplomacy angle, and more from a like just being a pain in the ass. It really captures that Loki vibe pretty well.
I love that there's now a subclass that is the Loki subclass, which makes sense because we have the Thor ones, right? The Tempest clerics and stuff like that. So it makes sense that there would be adventurers and people who take inspiration from these things, right? Of trying to manipulate people, not necessarily just by being duplicitous, but by being, a bit of a jackass and goading people into it.
Yeah, I like to think of it as the the little brother. He's like, I'm not touching you until somebody comes to address the situation.
And then this Trickster Warlock, how do you bring that kind of chaotic playfulness to this new patron?
Okay, that one has a little bit of a rogue features to it, of course.
Ooh.
So it can do some ranged, ledger domain. It can do, sleight of hand at range. Mm-hmm. The main, two main engines for the Trickster Warlock. Mm-hmm. The Warlock can switch with opponents on the battlefield. So they're the target of an attack and goes, nope, this guy next to me is the target of attack.
Oh, that's good. I almost thought you were saying like swapping places literally, which would be so wild.
Oh no, it is a swapping place.
Oh,
it is. Yeah, literally. Yes. Oh. So it's like yoink. I'm switched places with this guy that was next to me. Oops. Now your sword swings going at this guy.
Yeah. Oh my God. The fun, just like tactical play you can have with that. Of like, is it only in reaction to being attacked, or is it like an ability that they can use freely?
It is a reaction.
Okay. So
it would.
That's still a great reaction of being like, not only am I not taking this attack anymore, I'm also making one of my enemies take this attack.
Right.
And changing my placement on the field. It works in so many ways.
And it advances as you go. If you do it to a creature next to you, that creature has disadvantage on its save, so it's more susceptible to the switch. Ooh. But you can also make it a normal save and extend the range out to 30 feet. So you can yoink someone from 30 feet away and swap places with them.
Oh, that's so good.
You can not only that, but you can make yourself invisible when you make the switch.
What?
Yeah.
That's why. That's so cool. That's a perfect rogue warlock combination right there. Wow, that's so sick.
Yeah, and then the next aspect of it, when the warlock gets even more powerful, is illusions become much more dangerous around the warlock.
What do you mean by dangerous?
Okay, so somebody's like, oh yeah, okay, this wall must be an illusion. So they reach out to touch it, and they have to, if they fail their check to perceive it as an illusion, they have to make another save or take damage from the illusion. So basically, it's just like they think they get zapped by the wall or something like that. Take some psychic damage and become stunned, from, this isn't what I expected.
That's perfect for like a magical trickster who's also has like maybe a bit of an edgy, malicious bent towards it. That's so cool. And like being able to play with illusions like that is, I think, fun as a person who loves using illusions.
Yes.
Because I'm the kind of person who's like, okay, I'm going to use minor illusion to make a crate around me so that I can hide in this thing, and like being able to make it so that also if someone tried to touch it, that's great. That's so good. Yeah.
So, if you got someone who's like, yeah, I'm going to blow through this illusion. Oh no, I guess it's real. Oh, darn it. It hurt me somehow.
The psychic damage of being like, I was wrong. Oh no. Oh man, what was I thinking? What are the different backgrounds, the jobs these characters had before they became adventurers, and what's important in this world?
Well, Erin Roberts was the designer who we handed off backgrounds to, and she rocked it. So, we have some familiar, maybe expected ones, like Dancing Bear Guide, which is one of our from the old Midgard heroes. And these are wilderness guides basically. We have, so you was one of those. We also have, you were a former captive. You were captive in a raid, and now you have to you've either just gotten out of your indenture and now you are free. You could be a reaver. You're actively reaving, an ice nomad, and a seafarer, a sea raider. And there's also like the seer, where you have some minor prophetic abilities that's where you came up with. You came up through, like, you became into your adventuring world because maybe you've seen visions. And then we have some weird ones. Doomed. Like you have learned that you'll never be welcome in Valhalla. But you hope that if you can prove your worth, maybe you could undo that. Maybe you could change their minds. Imagine going into a game with that in the hole.
That's such a wild background. That's such a, hey, sorry guys, I'm not making it into heaven, but we're gonna see. We're gonna try. And then there's the opposite of it, the preordained hero. You know that you're gonna be foretold in legend and song. That doesn't mean that you have to sit on your laurels. Like, you have to live up to that. Truly. And also knowing for a fact, going the rest of your life being like, yeah, I know, it's gonna be bloody. It's gonna be bad. And just waiting for whenever that fight happens.
And so we have backgrounds, but then we also we brought back character threads from Castles and Crowns.
The character thread is a really innovative mechanic that sits alongside and sort of between a character's class and a character's background. Like a background, they can reflect some aspect of what your character is or was outside their adventuring career. But unlike a background, they don't disappear in relevance as soon as you start adventuring. A traditional background gives you a couple of skills, maybe a feat, but then it kind of ceases to be relevant in your character's ongoing story through the campaign. Threads aim to add an ongoing thread, hence the name, to your character's story by explaining maybe what you're up to when you're not actively adventuring. And it allows that story to influence your character's ongoing progression throughout as much of your career as makes sense to the thread.
Yeah, and I love that it adds this extra dimension to the characters, right? Because our class only says so much about who we are and what we can do, while the character threads, as you were saying, kind of tie together pieces of those backgrounds, pieces of who you are, what you're doing in the story, and like what your goals are. It's a long-term kind of mechanic.
Goals is a great thing to bring up with these. The other thing that's really different about threads compared to backgrounds, classes, other traditional elements of a character's build is that they can come and go. You don't have to start with one. Many of them are designed specifically to be picked up as the campaign goes along due to some exciting event that either the game master has come up with, player has come up with, and then they influence how your character acts and performs for some amount of time, whatever's relevant to that story. If you've ever had a story that you've wanted to be more than just words and actually have an impact on how your character plays, what special mechanics they might use, threads are how you deliver that, both as a game master and as a player.
I think another of the things that I really like about it is that it adds like a level of collaboration between the players and the game master, because like you were saying, like you choose these goals that you're hopefully like going for, but like you work together with whoever's running the game to determine what are the beats that I want to be hitting, what are the goals my characters have.
That's 100% accurate. It's a great excuse to build some of that back and forth storytelling that makes tabletop role-playing game an experience unlike any other. It is not just about the player saying, this is my class, you have to adapt to it. It's not just about the dungeon master saying, this is the adventure, deal with it. There's a give and take. Player says, hey, this story sounds interesting to me, I want to try it. Or game master says, this event has occurred, how are your characters going to react to it and be impacted by it moving forward? So it's a great way for the game master to have a little influence on the character's progression, and for the players to have influence on where the story goes, because the thread isn't just a bunch of mechanics that you get, it's also specific goals that your characters are attempting to achieve in the story. You're inserting some authorial agency into the overall campaign, which in my experience is the best way to run a D&D game or any RPG, is that back and forth.
Yeah, it gets the players really invested in the world and the story and the characters and the NPCs, and like it, especially because like sometimes you'll have a goal that you will fail, right? Like just because that's how the story ends up going. And again, there's this fluidity of like, well, do I keep this thread now? Like, is this an avenue that's like closed off to me? Maybe I pick up a new thread because of this. And like it allows that kind of very fluid narrative evolution, or like even kind of like an emergent narrative of like, okay, what's happening in the story? What do we have to change now that like X, Y, and Z has happened?
You used one of my favorite gaming and storytelling buzzwords there, buzz phrases, emergent
We're of
narrative.
the same mind.
That's something that I've been excited about for a long time. As folks may know, I've got a first half of my career primarily in tabletop and D&D. Since then, I've been working much more in narrative design and computer games, and specifically trying to find exactly those opportunities that tabletop allows for, is that those story elements to just bubble up and be created without anyone specifically authoring them. That emergent narrative to me that's the secret juice the tabletop game has in it, and I've been trying for many years to find ways to inject some of that into the digital projects that I've worked on.
Yeah, no, we're definitely of the same mind, because that is my favorite part of tabletop RPGs, of starting a game, thinking that we know what's going to happen, and then the game plays as it does, the dice hit the table, people make decisions, the story goes somewhere completely different, and it's not a worse version of it. Sometimes it's better than we could have thought of before, and I love that character threads help add guidance to that kind of emergence, because your players and the GM are actively going, well, this is what I think is the most interesting based off of what's going on, and having that again not just affect them in words but also in numbers, which some players engage with more.
They provide a purpose for the action. I mean, we've all played in campaigns that are just walk in the front door of the dungeon, kill monsters until we're bored, and then leave, and that can be fun, that can be great. But for me, the best campaigns that I've run and played in have had a sense of purpose to the player actions, to the character actions. The players say, I want my character to do X, Y, and Z, and that's why I'm here at the table. That's why my character's participating. Weaving that together into a storyline that everyone can participate in is an amazing experience to have at the table.
Let's talk a little bit about what are the threads in the Northlands Worldbook. What are the options players and GMs are going to be able to play through?
There's a host of them. We have, man, I don't remember the exact number. We'll go through it. It's
we don't have to go through
something like that.
We don't have to go through all of them.
For me, it was, so these threads represent a couple of different storytelling opportunities. Some of them, as we were talking about earlier, are a little bit like, this is my character's downtime activity. This is maybe why I got into adventuring, or maybe it's just the thing I do when we're not slaying monsters. There's an explorer thread, which is great for any character who dreams of discovering what's across that next range of mountains, or what will I find when I sail across this icy sea. There's a herald thread, which is just your classic Viking storyteller, your skald, your poet. These sorts, in both of those cases, those were threads, no pun intended, that I could easily pull out of Viking lore. I'm a big fan. I've run campaigns in this type of a setting before. Mm-hmm. Love the myths, love the legends. So finding themes like that of, oh, hey, look, these are things that heroes did when they weren't off slaying dragons and giants. This is why they were doing it, or how they enjoyed their downtime. So there's some of those that you might pick up right from the get-go. This might just be part of my character from level 1, or maybe it's something you decide along the way. So, you know what? We've been going to a lot of places. I think my character's an explorer now. This is what I do. Mm-hmm. But there's also a bunch in there that I really love, particularly because they lean into, well, how might the campaign change your character? And really mark them as impacted by the story elements. There's one called the Fate Bound, which is, I think, might be my favorite because it's, on the surface, it flies in the face of what any player wants, which is for their character to live forever. Because this thread is specifically about determining when your character is going to die and making it glorious.
Very Viking. Very
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The idea that the Norns have marked you, the gods have decided your time is limited. How are you going to go out? So, like, very early on, you work with your game master to figure out, okay, what are the goals my character is going to achieve toward this ultimate end? And then literally, when you reach the final milestone, you have a big glorious scene, and then the next round, you die, and you're done. There's no coming back.
Yeah.
And I have had characters who have managed to go out in a blaze of glory like that, and I find it immensely rewarding. As hard as we all try to keep our characters alive and kicking for as long as we can, going out with your sword ablaze, pretty awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And especially like in this world where the culture is very much around, like, in order to get to the place I want to be, in order to get to the feasting halls of Valhalla, I've got to go out in a blaze of glory. I think I was talking to Brian about like life in the Northlands, and he put it very well, where it's like, it's not about when you're going to die necessarily, because everyone knows they're going to die, especially if there's like a prophecy or something around it. It's how you get there that matters. And I love, especially because this is a thread and the player and the GM will get to work together on what those beats are, in that they'll get to collaboratively figure out what are the huge moments that I want my character to hit before I die. And in that way, that death doesn't feel unearned. It doesn't feel like narratively like falls flat because like, this guy that I liked playing is dead now. It's like, no, this is where all of this has been leading up to. I knew this was going to happen.
Another fun one that can be used either introduced as part of a character's backstory or come about as events of the campaign is the Bloodsworn, which is all about a vengeance oath. Right? Again, very big in Viking lore.
Yeah.
You've been wronged. The opening sentence, you've been wronged. Now your fate is painted in blood. Is that part of your backstory that you come into the campaign with? Like, hey guys, you all should just know I got this blood oath I'm working on. Or does it happen at level 5 when your beloved Jarl is killed, or your family is slaughtered by raiders, or what have you.
Yeah.
Or you're betrayed by your shield mate. Whatever the reason, you've got a vengeance oath now to deal out, and you're going to work with your game master on who wronged me. How am I going to get payback? Like, who doesn't love a good payback story, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is a way to weave that in to the campaign and give the players agency over how it plays out.
I love the versatility of all these because some of them can be more passive, like I'm a storyteller or I'm an explorer. I just want to see places. I want to tell stories about places, versus these that are very much more, no, I have a long-term goal and this thread is going to help me play out how we get from the beginning of this to the end of it. It is more straightforward and more, again, very easy to pick up along the way. Or start the character off with that. Whatever works best for your table, whatever works best for your story, that's what you can use. Sadly, that's where we're going to have to end those conversations for now, but let's wrap up. There are so many new toys to play with that I don't even really know where to start. There are 2 wolves living inside me right now. One of them wants to be a big, bad hyena lycanthrope berserker, and the other wants to be a little guy and play a Ratatosk. Both equally fun, just in very different ways. I'm also really excited to see how the character threads are woven into the Northlands, because they are by far my favorite mechanic that comes from Castles and Crowns, and I think also really leans into the fact that the Northlands as a setting is a place that will change and inspire you as a player, but your characters as well. There are so many places and so many cool things to do in the world, and every single adventure is going to make an irrefutable mark on who your character is and what they can become. And I think character threads help give you, the player, and also the game master, a little bit more guidance and control over how that story progresses. And I just think that's neat. Let us know in the comments what character options you're the most excited about. And if you still haven't backed the Northlands Kickstarter, well, you better get on running, because there's only about 20 more days left in the Kickstarter, and you don't want the long boat to leave without you. And as always, thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below so you can get notified on all things Kobold Press as soon as they go live on YouTube. And tune in next week so we can talk about the new vehicles, equipment, spells, and more coming to you in the Northlands Worldbook. And until then, I've been Kendrick or Kendo, whichever you prefer. And don't forget to go out, be bold, be brave, be valiant. And I'll see you next time.